Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today I'm home at my parents' house for the holidays, and since I'm home, thought I would cook up one of our traditional family dishes from the Polish side of the family, and that is haluski. So haluski, or cabbage and noodles as it's also widely known, is originated from Eastern European and Central European countries, and there's honestly a ton of different ways and variations on how it's made. But at its core, there's always kind of these main three components, and that's gonna be caramelized onions and cabbage, a type of noodle that could be egg noodles, drop noodles, and then three, and most importantly, is lots and lots of butter. So within my family, we do a drop noodle, we make a drop noodle batter, and I'm gonna show you how to make three different types of noodle shapes with that same batter. And growing up, this was just one of those pure comfort foods that my grandma used to make, and we always kind of associate with her. I mean, it's carbs, it's butter, and what is not to love? So I hope you guys enjoy the video, and let's get cooking.
All right, so we're starting with half a head of cabbage, and all I'm gonna do with this is just remove that core, which you can see in the center there. That's a lot tougher and harder to cook down, so we just wanna cut that out and remove it. And then after we remove that, all I'm gonna do is slice this as thin as possible. You could kind of vary the shape of how you want it, but I like it thin, so let's start a time lapse. Alright, so we have our cabbage nice and thinly sliced, and then all I'm going to do is toss that in a bowl with some salt, and that's going to draw out some of the water, and that will help the cabbage cook down a lot faster. And it's also, if you were doing something like coleslaw, another great opportunity to massage your cabbage. And then all I'm going to do is slice up this onion, and then we'll be ready to saute. Alright, now we are on to the butter phase. So I'm going to throw half a stick of butter into a medium heat cast iron, and I'm just going to spread this around the pan until there's a nice layer, and then I'm going to save this little extra bit of the half a stick for later. And then what we're going to do here is just toss in our onions and let those slowly caramelize down until they're nice and tasty and they've got some brown bits to them. And then I'm going to toss in a little bit of salt and pepper just to add flavor. And this is a really great opportunity to, work on flavoring dishes. Salt and pepper are the only seasonings in this dish. So it's really important that you use and balance those flavors well so the end product tastes good. Alright, so this is probably around, I'm going to say 10 to 15 minutes, and you can see they're cooked down well. They've got some brown bits to them. That's what we're looking for. And then once we've reached that stage, we're going to throw in our cabbage. And this has been sitting in salt that entire time, and you can see how the water has come out. And like I said, that's just going to help it cook down a lot faster. So we're just going to mix everything up, and then like the onions, let everything caramelize back down so we get some nice little brown bits, and then we'll start talking noodles. And now that we've got our onion, cabbage, butter mixture together, let's talk about drop noodles. So drop noodles are really basic. It's a batter with, flour, salt, egg, and water. That's it. Super simple. You should have these things on hand. And then there's a couple different ways you can actually make your noodles. So drop noodles, they drop, right? So we're looking for a batter that is going to, it's somewhere in between, I'd say like a pancake batter and a wet dough. And all we're doing for the actual recipe is 2 cups of flour, 1 egg, a teaspoon of salt, and then 1 cup of water. And then you can see as I'm mixing this batter up, all I'm doing is looking for the right consistency. So I started with probably about half a cup of water and then went to the full cup. And then you can see as I'm mixing this all together, this is kind of the consistency I'm looking for. Also nice to crack in some fresh pepper. Again, add a little bit more flavor in there. And then if we look at the texture I have right here, you can kind of see how it drops when it falls off the fork. And that's kind of what we're looking for. So let's start talking about our noodle shape. So number 1 is going to be with a Haluski strainer, which I'm sure most of you do not have. But all you do with this is pour the batter in and then shift it side to side, and then the noodle shapes will just fall out. If you don't have one of those, Another option is to use a squeeze bottle. So you pour it in and you squeeze out the noodles and you kind of get like little noodle shapes. And then the last method is going to be literally just dropping them off of the fork. And this gives you a little bit more of like a dumpling feel, a little bit bigger noodle. And this is completely up to preference on what you want to see in your haluski. So now let's start making some of these noodles. So boiling a pot of water and then just throwing in some salt. And then like I said, here is that squeeze bottle method. And all we're going to do is squeeze them out. And then as these noodles cook, all they're going to do is rise up to the top of the water. That's when you know they're cooked. I usually let them run for about a minute on the top just to make sure everything's cooked through, especially for the drop ones where they're more dumpling shape. There's going to be a little more important. And then strain those off with a strainer. And then let's move to the next shape. So here is that haluski strainer. Like I said, this is a really one tool use in the kitchen. So if you don't have one of these, don't worry. But in our family, it's worth it. And we think they make the best noodle types. They create this nice little small noodles that really infuse with those cabbage and onions, and it's got the best mouthfeel. And then likewise for the drop noodles, all you do is take your fork, get some batter on the end, and just drop those suckers in. And then you kind of get these odd, dumpling shapes. They're kind of fun. And, you could use these dumplings for something like, chicken dumpling soup, or really any kind of soup. They're really awesome in, because they give you that hearty component, which is awesome for the winter. And then, like I said, these will float to the top as well, and we know we're done. All right, so now that we have all our noodles made, normally I would just throw these into the pan with all of the, onions and cabbage. But since we've got these different noodle shapes that I want to show, I'm going to kind of do them as individual portions. So using that reserved butter that we had from earlier, I'm just going to pan fry the noodles up a little bit and mix in those beautifully caramelized onions and cabbage. We're getting all this flavor from just salt, pepper, butter, and then those caramelization of the vegetables. This is a perfect dish, comfort food. And then all we're going to do is plate this up and start to enjoy it. And it's the same basic process for all the noodle shapes. So now we've got all of our different noodles cooked up and onto the plate with the onions and cabbage. We got our big dumplings, we've got our haluski strainer, we have our squeeze bottle. And then to finish and serve, you can throw some parsley on it. Other variations do bacon. You can go a lot of different ways, but all in all, super tasty. As always, let's quickly run through nutrition and price. So for a serving, and with all of these servings, I got about 6 servings of this size. So 245 calories, 35 grams carbs, 7 grams protein, and 9 grams of fat. And then per serving comes in at only 38 cents, which is awesome. So my brother and I are going to enjoy this haluski. This is something that we serve, maybe Thanksgiving, Christmas, anytime the family's together. Just one of those great comfort foods for us, and maybe you can try it out in your family. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will catch you in the next one.